the urge always to try and make money, wanting to sell stuff. I started off at like around 8 years old. I would sell all the old clothes in my house. It wasn't nothing could get thrown away in my house. I would go and resell it to the coaches at school, to Uber drivers, to the ground staff at the school, and then it kind of evolved from there to whenever anyone in the area, family, would upgrade every 2 years their phones, I would go and buy their old phones and then resell those old phones to restaurant workers, butchery workers. And that's how it kind of all started, like a real hustle. And then at around 12 years old, I fell in love with sneakers. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with the whole sneaker market. It's something that's like super interesting, and it may just seem like a tacky or a sneaker to you, but it's a whole world and a cult following that goes behind it. And each shoe has a storyline and a limited edition run and a design process. So I fell in love with shoes. When every other kid was studying for school or focusing on school, I was up all night studying each Michael Jordan sneaker, each storyline behind when they were releasing, how were they releasing, how I could get my hands on a pair. I would wake up most mornings 4 o'clock in the morning, queuing up outside Sports Scene and a few of the other retailers just to get my hands on a few of these very, very limited edition sneakers.
That's at 12 years old.
12 years old, sure. Yes. And, it started off as just a real love and a passion, which I think really, did me well because I was passionate about what I did. And it was just for myself in the beginning because I was just so mad about these sneakers. And it grew into realizing that this is actually a very lucrative trade and a business that I could formalize. And, by 13 years old, I was reselling shoes on a small scale, 10, 20, 30 pairs. But these shoes are extremely...
20 pairs a month or a year?
Yeah, like a month. A month. Okay. It's very, very, very lucrative. You can buy a pair of sneakers for 2,500 Rand. And if it's the right demand and not a lot of supply and demand, and you could resell it for 300,000%. Like seriously, like there's...
So meaning you can buy 2.5 and sell 7.5.
So for like an example, the Off-White Jordan 1 Chicago, which released on Nike.co.za, released in 2016. It released for 2,100 Rand, and they're currently selling now for 150,000 Rand.
But Josh, at 12 years old, how did you know these things?
That's what I was saying to you. School was something that was not exciting for me. I could not fit into the box. I was not,
Quiet, guys. You guys are excited, eh?
I didn't fit into the mold. I always swam against the stream. And luckily enough, I found somewhere where, I created my own path. It wasn't that I followed the conventional path that most kids do. I had to go and create my own, and it, thank God, really worked out with my parents behind me, and they supported me because it wasn't definitely scary for a parent, I guess, from 12 years old, like you're saying, waking up at 4 a.m. and selling things and hustling and not focusing on school. And then eventually I dropped out of school in about grade 10 and focused on this full time, which is controversial. I know all the parents won't be too happy to pass that message on.
But you probably dropped out of St. David's, eh?
No. I dropped out in grade 10, but then I actually did do an online American matric. My mom was insistent. It wasn't negotiable. So I found another hustle. I found an online matric. So I did get that piece of paper.
So you do have matric?
I do. And then, the story just kind of, slowly evolved and evolves into like 20 pairs, 30 pairs, 50 pairs a month, into eventually, at around 14 years old, the main sneaker hub is New York City. And that's really where it's like the culture is a boiling pot there. And that's where it all comes from. So when the celebrities there wear a pair of shoes on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, everyone else around the world wants them. And I wanted to, be the first in line to see what was actually going on the ground, not wait in South Africa for it to come and see, and maybe you can make money, maybe I can sell it. I wanted to go where it came from. So I went and spent a lot of time in the States, kind of learning the sneaker culture, working with like a few international brands that I really learned a lot from. I shadowed some of the biggest sneaker stores in the world, for months at a time. And this was all at about 15, 16 years old. So it was a really exciting but scary and lonely process, to be fair.
What are some of the pivotal moments?
So, COVID was definitely a huge pivotal moment. So all of this was just really passion. And yes, it was lucrative and nice and fun, but it was a hustle. And then in COVID, we hit lockdown, and I had this idea. I was like, everyone thought the world was going to end. And I thought to myself, no one knew COVID was coming. All the shoes were already manufactured. The sneaker brands had already released it. The stores had already had their stock. What's going to happen with all the stock lying in South Africa, Johannesburg, Cape Town, Pretoria, Durban? And we hit COVID and all the malls were closed and everything was shut. So I thought to myself, Jesus, these shoes are just sitting there. Let me see if there's an angle here. And I went out on a mission to contact like every retailer I could, through a network. And I got hold of TFG, the Adidas warehouse, and then a lot of like private sellers, for example, DJs and celebrities, a lot of their income dried up. So they needed to sell their sneaker collections, to live.
You put their shoes.
And I got an essentials license from a close friend of mine who had a security company. I didn't have a driver's license, so I had to hire a guy to drive a truck for me. And we went driving around the city in COVID level 5 lockdown with an essentials license. I went through army roadblocks on the highway filled with a couple thousand pairs of shoes in the back. And that's
collecting them from celebrities and retailers
all around the
that
country. Anyone who had sneakers that were brand new in the country, I thought to myself that I could pick them up for people who needed, the income, and retailers wanted to just clear the stock because they were shut. And I thought to myself, you know what? I think the world's definitely going to come around. The world's not over like everyone thought. And this is a good opportunity to purchase stock now, sit on it for a little bit. And then when things ease up and things get better, I'll resell it. And luckily enough, it wasn't just that. It actually blew up. So I managed to acquire about 10,000 pairs of shoes in that process. I used my bar mitzvah money. I borrowed from my grandfather, my grandmother, my sisters, anyone who had any bit of money, I borrowed money from. That was about a 2-3 month process of literally every day just buying out sneakers. Acquired about 10,000 pairs, like I said.
And where were you putting these sneakers?
No, my whole house was full. My garage, my sister's bedrooms, our living room, the whole house was full of sneakers. I'll show you pictures, but the entire house was full of sneakers. And then COVID didn't ease for months and months and months. So I thought, oh God, I'm done. I thought, you know what? My dad said I'm done. Everyone said I'm done. The house was full of sneakers and we were still locked at home. No one was buying shoes. And luckily enough, after a few months, I don't know if any of you will remember, but on Netflix, there was a documentary about Michael Jordan called The Last Dance. And millions and millions and millions of people were at home watching that documentary, and people went mad for Jordans. Everyone wanted a pair of Jordans. And then you phoned up Sports Scene when they opened up and they had no Jordans.
Because you bought them.
Josh had their Jordans. And so I was very lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time. And I had the monopoly on sneakers in the town for Jordans, Yeezys, and a bunch of other things. But really, Jordans everyone wanted a pair of Jordans. And that was my first big break. So that, flipped about 10,000 pairs of shoes at the end